Hello, welcome to another Burgundy with Tweedy video. I've had to put the light on and it's not even sunset yet. It's been so gloomy the past few days. I've been watching some of the video footage back and it's all grainy and awful, and this camera I use, the GoPro, isn't particularly good in low light conditions. Anyway, none of that particularly relevant to today's wine. Another wine from Gavignet today. Going to try one of the Bourgogne Hautes Nuits. I bought the two 2022 vintages of the two vineyards. Perhaps there are more than two that Gavignet produces from, but these are the two that are sold from Fingal Rock currently. The other one is called Clos de l'Hermitage, I think, and this one is Clos des Dames Huguette. I've never really known how to pronounce that. Huguette. Probably it's wrong, whatever I say. This has been a really good series of relatively bargain Burgundy. Under 30 quid a bottle normally. I think a couple of years back this was even cheaper than that. My first time to try anything post 2021, I think, was probably the last vintage I had from then. So this is a first 2022 vintage I've had at all from Gavignet. And it is a vintage generally across Burgundy that I like, and Gavignet is a producer generally that I like. And the Hautes Nuits is a appellation generally I like, so perhaps I've jinxed it with all of that. That looks a little paler to me compared to the last couple of Gavignet wines I had, I would say. Not so much of that obvious dark colouring. Oh, well, it's hard to tell, isn't it? The lighting's terrible, and I've got artificial light on as well. So before a swirl, there is some kind of fruit character that I've encountered several times before. Never quite sure how to pin that down, but it's almost like gala melon or something like that. Almost melon-like. Noisy kids a couple of streets, so I don't know if you can hear them in the background. And I suppose it's grapey as well. It seems like a ridiculous observation for wine. Of course it's grapey, it's wine. But a bit faint. I think that probably needs a bit of aeration, doesn't it? Okay, with some swirling. I think I got a flash of possibly red cherry there, possibly other red fruits. Still a tiny bit on the faint side there, I would say. Okay, I mean, perhaps that will develop over time. Must have a bit of apple there, or apple skin. Interesting. On the palate, that is bright, fresh and fruity. Quite zingy with the acidity there. Quite a nice bit of acidity, nice juicy sort of acidity. Yeah, overall juicy is a good description of that. The fruit character, what kind of juice is that? Something like the aforementioned. Might be a bit of cherry, might be a bit of red berry. Again, I am thinking ever so slightly of apples there. Red apples, presumably, given the colour of the wine. There's still some other fruit hanging around on the nose. Something in a sort of melony kind of ballpark. Weird. Definite bit of zing to that. Not fizzy, but there's almost this very, very slight sensation of a tiny bit of effervescence. I think that's just the acidity confusing me a bit there. It's overall quite light. You always expect the Hautes Nuits to produce lighter wines. As I always say, it's at a higher altitude, 400 metres or whatever it is. It's really quite high up. I think 2022 was a warm year, wasn't it? They achieved good ripeness in most of Burgundy, but it certainly wasn't a blisteringly hot year like, for example, 2018 or 2020 were. I don't think it achieved that kind of levels of heat. So I would sort of expect slightly lighter, slightly less deep wines from the Hautes Nuits especially, and definitely not anything jammy. It's okay. Decent, pleasant. I find now I slightly miss the intensity that the last Nuits Saint-Georges I tried from Gavignet had compared to this. The 2019 was a really sort of, that was actually probably bordering on jammy, but I liked it in that context. Whereas this comes across as quite juicy but light. Definitely not jammy. But it's okay. It makes a nice change. It's always different. Definitely not jammy. Definitely not overly dark either. Perhaps the colour isn't really coming across, but the fruit style is more red fruit, I think. I don't think any characteristic there is talking to me about blackcurrants or blackberries or anything. It's all pretty much red fruit. Might develop with a later glass, but first impression, decent, bit light, very pleasant, very drinkable. Is that enough? Cheers.